when it comes to HANA database, we have few services, the important core services of HANA database. What are they? Name server, preprocessor, compile server, web index server, web dispatcher, and access engine. These are the mandatory services of HANA database. What are they? Name server, preprocessor, compile server, web dispatcher, and access engine, and mainly index server. For example, this is your HANA database. From where you are connecting, for example, SQL protocol, the ABAP based systems. So they directly connect by using SQL protocol. That means, for example, your application is ECC, ABAP based system, BW system. You are connecting to HANA database. How you connect that? By using SQL protocol. If your system is Java based system, HTTP system, then web based applications, Java based applications, web based applications, they'll connect HANA database by using HTTP protocol. See, first we'll see what are the services. Here the important service is a name server. HANA has a few mandatory services like name server, preprocessor, compile server, index server, web dispatcher, and access engine. What is name server? This name server will have topology information. This name server will have topology information. What is the meaning of topology information? Topology means metadata information. So on which, what are the services, all the services related information, which services are running where, everything will be with name server. And in a multi-host installation, you can do installation of HANA database in multi-host system also. It means one database you can install on different host. Then which data resides on which chunk, everything will be known by this name server. This name server is just like an index for your book. If you want any information, so where you go first? Index will have that information, right? But actually this name server don't have any data, only the pointers information, metadata, which data resides where, that's it. What is there in the table? For example, some table is there, so the name server knows where is that table residing, but what we have in that table, name server don't know. Name server contains a topology information, means all the services information and all the data information. It works as an index. Got the point? Name server. So name server is an important server. So all these servers, name server, preprocessor, compile server, web dispatcher, access engine, index server are mandatory services. You cannot stop and start these servers, remember. So internally they'll start and they'll stop. Name server is mandatory service, and index server, the next server is index server. HANA database, the heart of HANA database is index server. Remember this. Your 95% of the data, entire your database is residing in this index server. Entire your database, whatever, for example, your database size is 1 TB, na? Almost 950, 960 GB of data will be residing in your index server. Next service, preprocessor. What is this preprocessor? Actually, these services are on-demand service. Everything is done by index server only. The entire data is storing where? In index server only. But why I need these services? So which data resides where? Who will tell you? The name server will tell. Preprocessor, for example, to process unstructured data, raw data, flat files, the index server is not capable to process this data. So it will call preprocessor to process that data. Whenever the unstructured data comes to index server will call preprocessor to make that unstructured data into structured format. This preprocessor will take the data and make the data in a structured format, and it will give to index server. Remember, preprocessor don't hold any data. Only it is an on-demand service. Whenever index server calls, it will come and it will process the data and it will give to index server. The same way, the compile server. What is compile server? Compilation. For example, SQL statements. When you throw an SQL statements to HANA database, what happens in Oracle also we are having that shared pool area. What is happening there? Parsing. The syntax check and semantic check is happening, right? The same way the compile server also will compile that SQL statement and give
Bro,
it to index server. Sometimes
hello.
what happens, if the SQL statement is huge statement, this compile server will break that SQL statements into small chunks and it will execute and it will give the result to index server. Everything, the data is residing in index server only, but these services are on demand services. They don't hold any data. This web dispatcher, access engine, preprocessor, compile server don't hold any data. Only index server will hold 95% of the data, and sometimes name server will have some data. Why name server is having the data? It is having topology information, metadata information, right? So that is the reason if you observe all these services, only name server and index server contains some data. All other services are on demand service. On demand service. So when the unstructured data comes into picture, index server will call preprocessor. Preprocessor will process the data, convert the data into structured format, and it will give to index server. When a SQL statement comes into picture, index server will call compile server. Compile server will come and it will compile that SQL statement and it give the result to index server. Got it? So this ABAP based applications, SQL based applications directly connect to index server, only understand SQL protocol. So if it is a Java application, web based application, first the request will go to web dispatcher. What is web dispatcher, anyone? You will have dispatcher in ABAP systems, right? The same way dispatcher will dispatch the load, right? The same way in Java systems we will have web dispatcher concept. So it will process HTTP HTTPS request. It will maintain the load of HTTP request. If the any web request comes into the system, first web dispatcher will take and that will give that HTTP request to access engine. Access engine will convert that HTTP request into SQL format and it will give to index server. Index server only understand SQL format. Again, it will process your request and it will give the result to access engine. Access engine again will give to this web dispatcher to output. So these are the services, and another service is there, statistic server. Statistic server, now the statistic server is not there. It is there, but it is not shown. Actually, that statistic server is integrated into index server. Why? That statistic server, why statistic server means to do the statistic kind of things. If any statistic work come, the comparison will come, then the statistic engine will work. So this statistic engine always it is taking 5 to 7 GB of RAM memory. The RAM memory is allocated for statistic engine is 5 GB. But no customer ever seen that static engine occupies 5 GB of memory. Anytime it is only taking 1 GB, 1.5 GB only. So unnecessarily the memory is wasting, right? So from SPS 1.0, SPS 09, revision 93, that statistic server is integrated into index server. Statistic service is there, but it is integrated into index server now. Unnecessarily it is having 5 GB of memory, so they integrated that service into index server. That's it. These are the mandatory services. Remember, what are they? Name server, preprocessor, compile server, index server, web dispatcher, and access engine. So entire your data is storing where? In which process all your data is storing?
Index server.
Index server contains all your 95% of the data. What is the name server? Name server is having topology information, means about all the services. All the service information will be there in name server. For example, what happens in HANA database is not only OLTP database. Remember, it is combination of OLTP and OLAP. Did you know what is the difference between OLTP and OLAP? Online transactional processing,
Yes.
online analytical processing. So after coming of HANA, everything you can do by using HANA database only. You need not to have separate data warehousing BW system. You can do analytics on HANA database. You can do day-to-day transactions on HANA database. Got it? So names are this HANA database you can install in multiple hosts. Actually, what happens if you when you are having multiple hosts, if one table is having more than 2 billion records, it will segregate. It will divide the table into two different parts. 2 billion records on one host, 2 billion records on one host, 2 billion records on one host. One table don't contain more than 2 billion records, don't hold that much data in HANA database. There is a limit for a table entries. So this name server will know in multi-host installation, this name server will know which data resides on which host, which data chunk resides on which host. So name server is just like a index for your book. So it will tell you which information is where. That is what name server. Name server contains the topology information. What is pre-process index server? All your data is storing in the index server. All the applications will connect to index server only, whether it is a ABAP system or a Java system. ABAP system is directly SQL protocol. The connectivity is SQL protocol. If it is a Java system, the connectivity is through web-based, through browser-based, so HTTP protocol. So index server won't understand HTTP request. So the request will first goes to web dispatcher. Web dispatcher will dispatch the work to access engine. This access engine will convert that HTTP request into SQL format. Then index server will understand that and it will process. It will give the result to access engine again. Access engine return give the result to web dispatcher to your browser. That is how you are getting the information from web browser. If you are logging from web browser to HANA database, you cannot directly interact with index server. First the request will go to web dispatcher to access engine to index server. If you are connecting with the ABAP based systems, just like your ECC6 BW system, CRM system, SRM system, directly SQL protocol. How you are connecting your GUI? You are installing SAP GUI, right? When you are logging from SAP GUI to the database, it is connecting through SQL port only. There is another thing called a web GUI, browser based GUIs. If you log in with a browser based GUI, the request won't go to index server directly. First of all, web dispatcher to access engine to index server. So what is preprocessor? It will process unstructured data. So this HANA database is OLTP and OLAP. So you are getting the information from various different sources. For example, you are writing something, some review on Twitter, some review on Amazon, some review on some Facebook wallpaper, Insta wallpaper. So do you have any structure for that? Do you maintain any coding for that to write a review? So you have to analyze that data also. So when the data comes to index server won't understand that data. So it will call preprocessor. Preprocessor will comes into picture and it will process that unstructured data into structured format. The index server understandable format. Then it will give to index server. The preprocessor won't hold any data. Just it will process, it will give to index server. If there is any SQL statement comes into picture, the large SQL statement, index server can't handle that much SQL statement to compile that. So it will call compile server. Compile server will come and process that SQL queries. The first time, the compile server will process that query. The second time, already index server knows that query, so directly it is giving the information. It just works as a your shared pool concept. If there is a large SQL statement, this compile server will break that SQL statement into small chunks and it will execute and it will compile, it will give to index server. So the index server can't handle this unstructured data, the long SQL statement. So it is calling these services. And you have web dispatcher and access engine. I'll show you all these services. Okay, wait. compile server, daemon server, index server, name server, preprocessor, web dispatcher, and access engine. So what is this daemon service? Daemon service is a Linux based service. Whenever you are starting your, when you start your HANA database, now first service which will start is a daemon service. It is not a HANA specific service. Actually, whatever the application you start on HANA, Linux operating system, the daemon service will start. First service, the daemon service will start, and it will kick all other services. And this what is that? SAP Start SRV service. You know this SAP Start SRV service is what? The first service of SAP, which will start first. SAP Start SRV. If you know kernel upgradation, we discussed about
Yes,
this SAP Start SRV service, right?
yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. This SAP Start SRV and daemon are common services. But when it comes to HANA, compile server, name server, preprocessor, web dispatcher, index server, and access engine. If you observe here, which services have occupying more memory? See, index server only. Index server, then name server. All other services are having 0. See, compile server is having 0, 380 MB only. And another daemon service, okay, it started, the daemon service is started. After starting of a daemon service, all other process will start. Remember that. See, this preprocessor is not taking any memory. Only index server and name server is having more memory. Remember. And what is my version?
Why it is so?
Why?
Why it is not shows the CPU memory, sir? Daemon service.
Daemon service is just a kickoff service. So it will take hardly 1 MB, 2 MB. That's it. Once it start, it will trigger all other processes. After that, it will go into the idle state. That's it. The duty of daemon service is to kick off all other processes. That's it. Okay. What is this operating system, guys? On which operating system you installed HANA database?
SUSE Linux.
SUSE Linux. Server 50. And what is your SAP version? Anyone? Can you name this version?
2.0, sir.
Huh?
SAP 2.0.
Version name.
HANA 2.0. SPS 5.
Release 57.
Revision 57. HANA 2.0 SPS 05
Revision 57.
Revision 57.
57.
Okay. These are the services. So every service will have port numbers. We'll discuss port numbers tomorrow. Okay, not now. Okay. See, what is persistent layer, guys? Now your entire database is storing in the RAM, right? My 1 TB, for example, my entire database is storing in RAM. My RAM memory is a volatile memory, I told you, right? Suddenly my system crashes. My system shutdowns. Now I am starting my database. What happens when I am starting my database? What happens?
From persisting layer, the data will
From persistent layer,
store.
the data is loaded into the main memory, loaded into the RAM. So it will take some time to start your HANA database, right? So what is persistent layer means? There are two directories, HANA data, HANA log. These are two directories. Okay, what is HANA data, HANA log? So the important directories in HANA, remember these four: file system, operating system level, you will have these four directories. One is HANA data, HANA/log, HANA share it, and USR SAP. You know what is USR SAP? What is USR SAP directory? Anyone?
SAP is home directory.
SAP is home directory.
Root directory.
You know what is USR? In Linux, what is USR directory? If you install any
The software.
software, it will be installed in under which directory? Under USR directory. You are installing SAP. That is the reason you are getting USR/SAP. Actually, this USR word come from Linux only, not Windows related word, that USR. Okay, USR SAP is a standard SAP directory, right? There are two other directories, HANA data, HANA log. Can I show you that directories? See, under this this is one directory, USR SAP directory. Another directory is HANA. If I go to HANA directory, cd/HANA, see, I get three more directories: HANA data, HANA log, HANA share. These four are the important directories for HANA database: HANA data, HANA log, HANA shared, and USR SAP. These four directories. Remember these four directories. When it comes to persistent layer, HANA data, HANA log are persistent layer, not USR SAP directory, not HANA shared directory. Only HANA data, HANA/data, HANA/log. These two are called as persistent layer. That means all your data is residing where? In a persistent layer at the OS level. What are the four directories? HANA related directories. Important interview question.
HANA direct,
HANA data,
Data,
HANA
HANA
data,
log,
HANA
data,
log,
HANA
HANA
log.
SAP.
HANA shared, HANA USA.
These are file system directories at your hard disk level. At hard disk level, you will find these four directories. Out of these four directories, only HANA data, HANA log are persistent layer. That means entire your database, HANA database is storing in memory. Whatever you have in that memory, that exact information you will have in the data directory and log directory. Okay?
Yes, excuse me, sir.
Yes.
This USR SAP directory, that is
Okay.
database home directory or SAP's home directory?
USR SAP is a SAP's home directory, but when you install, actually SAP's directory, installation directory, that is called as SAP's standard directory, USR SAP directory. So this till now, when you are installing Oracle database, Oracle is some third-party database, right? That is the reason you are getting independent Oracle directory there, right? But here, this HANA database belongs to whom? SAP. Whatever SAP software you install, that USR SAP directory will come. Whether it may be HANA database or application, you will come to know. It is too early to discuss about that USR directory. Okay? Wait.
Okay.
See, whenever you do a transaction, what happens actually? If you do a transaction, the data will generate, right? For example, I am doing one transaction. When I do a transaction, what happens? Some data will generate, right? Along with the data, redo entry also generates. What is the meaning of redo entry? Any database is not only for storing the data. Remember that. Not only storing the data. Every database has to provide security to your data also. That is the reason if you take any database in the world, whenever you do any transaction, along with the data, one redo entry means the backup of the data will be generated. For example, I'll create some sales order. Create sales order. That is my transaction, right? Sales order 1 created. Same another sales order 1 also creates. This sales order 1 goes and sits in the data directory. This is a backup of that same sales order go and sit in the log directory. This redo entry is nothing but here we say in HANA database log. Actual data log. If you create a user, say Shabana, what happens? The same Shabana user will go and sit in data directory. The same Shabana user go and sit in the log directory. Got the point? So if you lost this data, you can recover from the log directory. Any database, they will maintain the data of 2 or 3 copies of the data. Same way here in HANA database also, you will have 2 directories. One is data directory, second one is log directory. The original data will go and sit in the data directory. The logs of that data will go and sit in the log directory. HANA shared is called as installation directory. HANA installation directory. HANA shared is called as HANA installation directory. So whenever you do any transaction, first where it will be in the RAM or directly it will go to the hard disk. Whatever you do. For example, if I write something here, if I'm writing something here, okay, where it is saved now?
RAM.
Yes.
RAM, right? Not in a hard disk. When it will go to hard disk, when I say save as some JPG image, I'll say desktop. Now it is saved where? On my desktop, right? Untitled JPG. Desktop is which drive, guys?
C drive. C drive.
C drive. Excellent. Okay, desktop is C drive. Now physically it is saved in the hard disk. When I write the data, where it is saved? RAM. First it will go in the sit in the RAM only. Later it will go and save in the hard disk file system level. So whatever the transaction you do, first it will be uploaded into the RAM. In Oracle database also you have seen, right? Whenever we do any transaction, where the data is saving first? In the buffer cache or redo log buffer. Later it will go to the data files and redo log files. The same way in Oracle or any database, any software, whatever you write, it will be saved in the RAM first. Then if it is loaded into the RAM, then only it is showing. Otherwise it won't show us, right? It has to load into the RAM to give you the display. Later it will save into the hard disk. Can you please relog in? When you do transaction, right, the data will be, now entire data is loaded into memory. My database is running. Okay, I have started my HANA database. For the first time, whatever the information which is there in data will be loaded into the memory, main memory. Now if you search anything, from where you are getting, need not to come to hard disk. Everything you are getting in the RAM. Yes or no? Any doubts here?
Yes, sir. No doubt.
All database in my RAM now. 1 TB for any amount of data. So for example, if I search for one sales order, first it will go and search in the memory. I'm getting in the memory. Need not to come into hard disk. So if I search a purchase order, I'm getting into the memory, from the memory only. Need not to come into hard disk. Right? Everything I'm getting into the RAM. Now if I create a new sales order, that also creates into the memory only. First memory, then later it will go to the data directory and the log directory. How it is going? So for example, now I created one user named Shabana. Okay, here user. So that user will be first loaded into RAM, then slowly after some time it will come into log directory, then into data directory. Immediately it will come into log. It won't write to data directory first. If I create a user, it won't come into the data directory first. Wait for 1 minute now. Okay, now I created a user. Okay, where it is coming now? First it is saving in the memory, then it is coming into log directory. Later it will come to data directory. This is the sequence. Now I create a sales order 1. Sales order 1. First it is
Screen
created.
is not visible.
Oh, sorry. Now sales order is created. Now sales order created where? In the memory. Then it will come to log. then later it will go to data directory. Like that, simultaneously your memory and the persistent layer is updating. Whatever the transactions you do, whatever it is updated, the new transaction comes into memory, the data, exact data is going into data directory in the log directory. The backup of that is going into the log directory. Why it is writing every time to the persistent layer? To maintain the consistency of the data. Okay, if it is not writing, everything is not writing into the data directory, what happens? Everything is only updated into the RAM. Suddenly my system crashes. How can I recover the data? Yes or no? So when I restart the database, what is happening? From the data directory, everything is loading into the RAM for the first time, so that your data is consistent and secure. That is the reason whatever it is updating into the RAM, it will be later updated to your persistent layer. In persistent layer also we have two things. One is data directory, second one is log directory. Where it is updating
Okay.
first? Log directory or
Well,
data directory?
Log directory.
directory, sir.
Log directory
Directory.
it is updating first, later it is updating
Okay.
into the data directory. When it will update into the data directory? That is my question. There is a concept called save point in HANA database. That save point time is, for example, 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes, whatever the up-to-date information we have in memory, that will be updated to the data directory. For each and every 5 minutes, the RAM, the new things what are updated into the RAM are updated into the file system level into the data directory. For example, now I created 3 new user. Now it will be in RAM as well as it will update into log directory, but not into the data directory. Now I created some user Ali, that will be in RAM as well as in your log directory, not into the data. After 5 minutes, when the save point occurs, all these new data, whatever the changes happened in these 5 minutes, that will be updated into your data directory. What are the things? New things, Srinu and Ali are updated into the data directory. This is the how they are maintaining this persistent layer. Now suddenly my system crashes. My RAM memory gone. Now when I am starting my database, what is happening? It is reading from HANA data. The entire information is loading into your main memory for the first time. So it will take some time to start up your database. Got it? Now see, now another user I created, Kalyani, that is updated into your log. That is updated into your log as well as the memory. Another user I created, Muskan, that is also immediately updated into your log directory. Now suddenly my system crashes. Suddenly my RAM crashes. So all this memory gone. Now what happens? It will load from where? From HANA data. So up to Alim user it will load. After that, whatever the information missing, that it will load from the log directory. Kalyani and Muskan from the log directory. First it will load whatever we have in the data directory. And if there is anything extra than the data directory into log directory, then that updated information in the log, that 1 or 2 minutes data will be there. Na? That information will be added to the memory. Got the point? That
Yes,
is the reason
yes.
we are maintaining save point concept here. This save point occurs for every 5 minutes. If save point is not happening, if save point is not running, what happens? Nothing will be written to your data directory. For example, today is what date?
22.
22, 26.
15th September, Savepoint stopped. Now today is what? 22nd, right?
20,
So
26.
after 15th September, nothing is updated to your HANA data. Everything is updating into your RAM till 22nd September, and everything is updated into your log directory. This is also having up to 22 September. This log directory will have some less space. So it is a temporary storage. Actually, this log is a temporary storage. So after this log directory will be backed up for each and every 30 minutes. All these logs will be backed up to your log backups. So this info, you won't have entire information in the log directory. Only today's information or 1 hour information, 2 hours information will be there in the log directory. Now your save point is not running from 15th September. Now today is 22nd September. Now suddenly your system shut down. When you start your database, what happens? It will load from HANA data. When you load from HANA data, up to 15th September data will come into memory. From 15th September to 22nd September, it will check in the log directory. Do you have in that entire information in the log directory? No. Already this log also backed up to some other location. So first of all, you have to update this log backups, and for recent information, you have to update the log. So it will take so much time to start your HANA database. What is happening here? If your save point is not running regularly, your downtime is increasing. That is the reason, to maintain consistency of your landscape, consistency of your system, this save point will run for each and every 5 minutes. Okay, now the time is, for example, 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. Save point triggered at which time? 8 p.m. save point triggered. Now 8:02 or 8:03. Now suddenly system crashes. When you start your HANA database, it will load up to 8 o'clock information. That 2 to 3 minutes data, it will load from the log directory. Only that 1 or 2 minutes data, 5 to 6 transactions will be there, that will be loaded immediately. So your database is starting immediately. It is not taking much time. If your save point runs for 15 days, once in 15 days, you have to back up from your log backup. You have to apply this log backups. This HANA/log, whatever files generated here, that will be backed up for each and every 30 minutes. Only 1 hour data, 2 hours data, 1 day data you will get from the log directory. If you have beyond that, it will be backed up to some other location. You have to load this data first, then log backups, then log area. That is the reason save point is very, very important here. To maintain consistency of your HANA database, HANA has come up with a concept called save point. The default time is 5 minutes. Every 5 minutes, whatever the new data updated into the memory, that will be updated into your HANA data. If I create one purchase order, what happens now? Tell me. The data will be saved in memory as well as in a log.
Log memo.
After 5 minutes, this purchase order will be updated into your data. Like this, every 5 minutes it is running your save. This is what your persistent layer. If anybody asks you what is your persistent layer, HANA data, HANA log. Don't say HANA shared USR SAP. This HANA shared is a installation directory. USR SAP is a standard SAP's mount point. Only persistent layer are HANA data, HANA log. These 4 are file systems. In HANA database, important file systems are what? HANA data, HANA log, HANA shared, USR SAP.